It's Two on the Aisle with me, Charles Gross, and Leslie Hoban Blake. Tonight reviews of Farinelli and The King, No Boy. Plus, we'll be discussing shows opening on Broadway in March and April. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Two on the Aisle. And good evening, everyone. How are you, Leslie?
Oh, I'm cold right now, believe it or not. Yes, cold. I'm never going to be warm again.
It is winter, you know.
It's still winter, I know.
We're under all these hot lights, but we're cold.
But we're about to do the spring season when we finish.
That's right.
With your first, Farinelli and The King, which is the first play we're talking about this evening, which is a play starring Mark Rylance, written by his wife, Claire Van Campton, who is a musicologist. Right. So she was doing some research, and she came across the story of Farinelli the Castrato, a very famous story, but she did not know it. And she found a little-known fact about this particular guy, which was not only did he sing like a boy soprano because he had been castrated as a child, but he had the voice of an angel, and he wound up curing the King of Spain of a dreadful depressive illness that he had, as long as he stayed there and sang for him. And it was sort of the beginning of music therapy. Yes. And so she wrote this play for her husband, and it's the most brilliant thing I've seen in a long time.
Well, she gave him a lovely gift, and he returned the favor. He plays the king, Spanish king, Philippe, who was actually a French prince. But, you know, all these families were related, so his father decided, okay, son, you're going to go rule Spain.
Right.
And
well,
he does.
What they did.
And, you know, as far as the play can see, he is a competent ruler, except that he is sick.
Well, he's competent when he's well, and he's actually a great mathematician. He gets all of their bills and whatnot working, but he can't do anything when he's in a depressive state. He behaves in a very psychotic fashion.
Right, and Mark Rylance, who, you know, at times you think he's doing a one-man show, especially in the opening scene where he just goes on and on, is amazing. Both, you know, showing the king depressed and then showing the king better or quipping,
but as good as Mark Rylance is, and as good as his lady wife Isabella, played by
yes, that is Melanie Grove. Very appropriate name for an actress who convinces an opera singer to sing for her husband.
And Isabella goes to London and sees Farinelli and says, "You must come and sing for my husband. Your singing has raised my spirits. Perhaps it will raise his," and it does. Yes. And all three go off merrily to live in the woods together, and the court is going like, what are we going to do? They're living in the woods, and we need them here. Right. So they keep bringing stuff to them in the woods, but they're very happy in the woods, all three of them.
They are, but he's also much happier in the palace too.
Oh yeah, well, when he has to be there.
When he does. And the Farinellis, there's that acting Farinelli, that's Sam Crane, and the night we saw it, I think they alternate a singing Farinelli, Yeston Davies. And it's coordinated very nicely. And one of the subplots is Farinelli really likes being friends with the king and performing, and he doesn't really want to go back to the spotlight, even though he is greatly in demand.
And the way it's played, there may or may not be some kind of an affection between Isabella and Farinelli.
There may be. My take on it was it's just a strong friendship and kinship over a mutual carrying
Which
over
is
someone
more than he had where he was.
They both
but I mean it's more than he had where he was. So it fills a need in his life for sure to have all of that.
There's this one wonderful scene where he decides he's not going to return to the stage, and you see basically the talking Farinelli sees the singing Farinelli walk off. It's a very strong moment.
Right.
And the last scenes without Mark Rylance aren't quite as strong.
Which tells you a great deal about the presence of Mark Rylance.
Yes.
As if we didn't know from how many Tonys has he won now? I don't know, 3? Every time he gets on stage, he wins
I think we may be adding one this year.
Well, this year he's up, this year's acting awards for men are going to be quite hefty. But we'll talk about that in a minute anyway.
Yes.
So, I was thrilled with it, and the set design.
The set design. John Dove directed it.
John Dove,
brilliantly.
Yes, he
brilliantly.
did.
Maybe if all he did was step out of Mark Rylance's way, and I'm sure he did more than that.
And the theater
it would have.
But what I loved so much was the theater is built on the premise of the Globe. It's got people actually sitting on stage during the performance, and it's got the 2 tiers.
Jonathan Fensom.
Jonathan Benson, thank you. I think that he deserves quite a round of,
he does.
If not applause, maybe awards.
But unlike certain plays that I've seen this season, I didn't go out humming the scenery. Not because it's not hummable, but because it did not, for a change, overwhelm the play.
Right.
The play was
and
just
yet
so wonderful.
It had many overwhelming elements within it, and yet it was all, because it's opulent in the way that it's supposed to be.
But none of them outdid Mark Rylance.
No, they did not. So what would you give it?
I would say 4.5.
I'd certainly go 4. I'd go 5. I mean, I was just, I loved it.
You can if you like.
Thank you, I will in that case. Thank you.
Yes.
And next up?
Well, next up, I went to see a production by the Pan Asian Rep, one of our longest-running repertory companies.
And I missed it because the elevator was broken and I couldn't do the stairs.
Right,
so.
Well...
My apologies.
Yes, but fix the damn elevator, okay?
It would be, yeah, it would be nice.
You know. So this is No No Boy. Now, a couple of years ago, about... George Takei from Star Trek starred in an autobiographical musical, Allegiance, I think it was called. And it addressed the very disgraceful period in American history during World War II where we interned Japanese in camps because it was thought they were disloyal or...
They might be disloyal.
They might be disloyal.
There was never one case of that proved. Never one.
And I don't think we had any Germans interned, and certainly...
No, we did not, nor Italians either,
yeah.
No,
so
only the
on
Japanese.
There, I mean, our director Gloria is very. It's an issue she's very familiar with. She said someone probably just wanted their land.
Well, they did want their land. All of the land was taken up and given to California, growers and whatnot.
So Takei's musical basically showed us life in the camps.
Right.
This is after the camps. This is. It's by Ken Narasaki, based on a novel by John Okada, and this is after the war, after the camps. And the No No Boy was basically the term used for a young Japanese man who would not serve in the army.
Conscientious objector, right.
Right, and well, except that in this case, the lead character, played by Chris Doy, was jailed for it. And he comes...
conscientious objectors are jailed. Muhammad Ali went to jail.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, well.
Yes.
And he was jailed for it, and he comes back, and he finds a very divided community. An old friend of his who was a veteran and severely wounded, as it turns out, understands what he did. Another friend won't talk to him. His brother wants to join the army, and on top of that, he has to deal with his mother, who is basically losing a grip on reality and keeps insisting that Japan won the war. And shows the aftermath, and it's definitely a subject that I don't think has been explored, and I think should be explored more. But whereas I don't think Allegiance would have made it to Broadway without George Takei, I think this show has good intentions, but it's just too spread out. The playwright covers too many of the relationships and doesn't manage and can't build. So the story of the parents alone might have been something, the story between him and his wounded friend alone. But put them all together, and there just isn't enough time to develop the characters or to create a strong story. So, maybe the novel that it's based on by John Okada, it could have more details. The playwright says, look, it was just too much for me to put on, and I tried to pare it down. I don't think he was successful enough doing that.
It's interesting because, just a side thing, it's the first Japanese-American novel, the first by a Japanese-American writer. And he never followed it up because he died young, so he didn't...
well, apparently, I think he was in the camps,
he was in the camp,
he was in the army.
And he was in the army as a translator. Well, they did that. We had friends, her family was in the camps, but she was a nurse, so they made her, she worked in the hospitals.
Right.
But,
And Ron Nakahara directed it.
Yeah.
It's nicely blocked, but... I wasn't overwhelmed. In fact, I was a little underwhelmed with the performance. It's just a little.
I missed it. I didn't learn about this until I was in college, and I did some stuff when I was on the educational television station, and it was something that I felt really should be shown to kids.
I agree. I honestly, I don't recall when I learned about it. I don't think I ever studied it formally, but I've always been aware of it. Even so, when I saw Allegiance, I have to say, I kept thinking, how is this happening?
Well.
It was how could it have happened?
President Roosevelt signed an order.
Yes.
That's how it was done.
Yes.
And there was a great deal of prejudice.
Yes.
That's
well,
what it was about.
And unfortunately, a lot of, I read recently that the Nazis got a lot of ideas of how to treat the Jews based on how we were treating black people here. So and I think these things should be put out, but this is unfortunately a very weak attempt. And
what would you give it?
I would give it about 2 playbills.
Oh, okay.
Gloria would probably give it 5. She really, I will say, our director came with me, and again, she's very knowledgeable about this topic, and she loved every minute of the play. But I would like to see more done on this, and I'm waiting for the, I don't know, one that's the equivalent to, I don't know, Angels in America or...
Oh, well, now you're taking, now we're going to get right into Angels in America is...
Okay, well, it's coming back, yes.
My first, it's a 2-parter, and there are 2 2-parters this season.
Right.
And the new season, the first new play of the new season is the double bill of Angels in America, which is actually coming to us via London, where it's sold out in the West End.
Right.
And it has 2 of the London stars, Nathan Lane playing Roy Cohen. And I understand he's wonderful, of all things, but I understand he's wonderful.
Now, you knew Roy.
We talked about this once. I had dinner with Roy Cohen. My boyfriend at the time worked in his law office. That's how I got to go to dinner with Roy Cohen.
I actually found out, since you've told that story, I have a Roy Cohen connection too.
Okay, but can I finish telling about the plays that are coming up? And then okay. So anyway, we're getting both plays, Millennium Approaches and Perestroika.
Right.
The stars are Nathan Lane, Andrew Garfield, who was played Spider-Man in the last Spider-Man movie, and Lee Pace, who was also in The Normal Heart and is in one of my favorite television shows called Catching Fire, about the whole Silicon Valley thing. You know,
history.
The show is over now, but it ran about 3 or 4 seasons, and I loved it a lot. And he's also in the Hobbit movie, and all of those, whatever those were called, the Tolkien films. It's 4.5 hours plus 3.5 hours, so you know, you put that together.
Now, originally the first part of it opened, and the second part of it opened later in the season. I think they tried to get it on quickly because Frank Rich was leaving the theater critic's position at the Times, and they wanted to make, and he had loved the first one, the first part. They wanted to make sure.
They're very different plays, though. They come from very different places. One is the rise of the AIDS crisis and what it's doing to. And then the second one that ends with
the angel coming into the room.
Well, yeah, but now that you've spoiled. No, I'm joking. No, you didn't. Everybody knows how it happened. You're not spoiling anything. But which one is Ethel Rosenberg? That's the first one. Millennium?
No. They're in both. They're in both. They're in both.
Well, Ethel dies at the end of one of them, so she's.
I think Ethel is dead at the beginning. Her spirit comes back.
Oh, okay.
I think she says Kaddish or something for Roy, or
right. That's
or
what
something
it is.
Like
that's what it is. Okay, so she comes back when Roy dies.
Yes.
I got it now, right?
Okay.
And Roy dies in the second one, right? Okay.
Right. Yes.
So yeah, that's. But anyway, so I'm looking forward to that.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, and yes, as if anybody didn't know. And what are you looking forward to?
What am I looking forward to? Oh, what am I looking forward to? Well, let's see. Oh, Margarita. I'm looking forward to Margaritaville. Well, I guess I am. Okay.
Well, if you don't know, who would?
Well, now this is interesting. I thought this was going to be another jukebox musical, but apparently it is a musical inspired by the song "Wasting Again in Margaritaville," and it has a few of the Jimmy Buffett songs, I believe, and maybe some other songs, but it also will have some original songs.
It's all Jimmy Buffett, though. I don't think it's anybody else.
It says it will have original songs, so I don't know. It will also have Paul Alexander Nolan from Bright Star, who we both liked very much.
Tony winner.
Alison Luff from Les Mis, Rachel Lisa Howard. So it's, who knows?
Written by, you mentioned who it was written by before.
Greg Garcia, who did My Name Is Earl, among other things, on television. So that and Raising Hope.
Right,
so
which I like.
And which both of shows lead me to believe that this would be a good writer.
He's an off-kilter guy.
For a show like this.
Second Stage is opening its brand new first ever Broadway theater at the Helen Hayes, which is being refurbished for the time that's being done. And it's inaugurating the new space with an odd choice from my perspective. It's Lobby Hero by Kenny Lonergan, which was done originally off-Broadway and then revived at Second Stage 2 years ago. Got better reviews the second time, I think, than it did the first time. But I thought, for their opening show on Broadway, I wondered why they didn't bring Torch Song Trilogy, which had just had a run. Starring Michael
Which
York.
I had wanted to see, unfortunately.
Yeah, me too. However, it may just be that there's maybe the gay white way is too gay this year, because we have the two-part Angels. You're going to be talking about Boys in the Band. Right. So maybe they thought it was better to bring in something else. And it does mark the, it's directed by Trip Cullman, and it does bring in Luke Evans, Captain America, I think. Isn't he Captain America? It was Chris Evans. It's Chris Evans, and too many names. Chris Evans, and he was Captain America. Yes. And it's his Broadway debut, so that's something to look forward to.
So we're going to have Spider-Man and Captain America on Broadway.
Yes, we can do an Avengers, luncheon or something.
And we had Supergirl's mother a season ago, Laura Benatti. Yeah. They've got a new mother for Supergirl now because Laura's apparently too busy. Yes.
So I'm looking forward to. I also want to see the newly refurbished Helen Hayes. I want to see what they did with that. It's a small and intimate theater, so the fact that it's because we're not getting any original plays except for one or two, and
no, it's a lot of revivals this season. Yeah. But this is a quasi-original play. A lot of every play, most musicals are based on something.
Which one are we talking about?
We're talking about Frozen now.
Oh, okay.
So I have to say, it doesn't matter. All they have to do is say Frozen, and
the children
they're going to have an audience. It could be the worst thing in the world. I am hoping it will not be.
Who's directing?
I do not know.
Oh, sorry. I don't either.
Yes. Let's see. Cassie Levy will be Elsa. Patty Murin is Anna. Apparently, they are adding a few new songs to it. They've got the same writing team who did the movie. The movie was such a big hit. With a song like "Let It Go," or "Do You Want to Build a Snowman?"
I mean, that'll be in
Idina Menzel actually said she would like to do the Broadway version.
Idina Menzel.
Idina Menzel. I'm sorry. I went to John Travolta's high school. That's actually true. So, but I got it closer than he did.
Good one.
But. As of now, she won't. I don't think they have anyone from the movie in there. I'm kind of curious. I was frankly lukewarm to the movie. I thought maybe I just came in with such high expectations, and certainly this is going to come in with amazingly high expectations.
Yeah, well, what I've seen photographs, and they look like it's following pretty much. So to me, the photographs look a little bit like an on ice production. Disney on Ice, and so I'm a little concerned.
Well, given that the name of the show is Frozen,
I know,
ice would not be inappropriate.
I'm sure that when she makes things turn to ice and whatnot, they'll have great CGI things and whatnot.
CGI on a stage?
Well, they do. They projections. I mean,
I'm hoping they will do better production-wise than with Aladdin, because Aladdin, which is a hit, is to
Aladdin was skimpy.
Yes,
I thought Aladdin
extremely skimpy, and it looked. Like, is this a Broadway musical, or is this, at one of the Disney parks? Now, cast-wise, it was very good, but and my daughter felt the same way. So, we'll see. When Disney is good, it is very, very good. Beauty and the Beast was wonderful. Lion King is running. He's going to run forever.
King, with Julie Taymor, they're all looking for the next Julie Taymor,
right?
Who's going to take something that we know and make it something new,
right?
But nobody's been able to really do that.
But I'm hoping that's what we'll see with Frozen. Now, again, the difference is I really like the Lion King.
Yeah.
I was frankly lukewarm.
Well, with the little girls, it's not for you.
Yes.
But
I'll be going. Not that it's going to matter what we say.
Right.
We could say this is a terrible, and it will. Because it's Frozen.
But it's interesting because I wonder if it's going to make a difference. Mean Girls, based on the Lindsay Lohan movie by Tina Fey, with a book by Tina Fey, is coming to Broadway.
This is a musical.
It's a musical.
Yes.
It's opening at the August Wilson. It's Casey Nicola is doing both the direction and the choreography. It's an open-ended run. I don't know who the young women are who are in it. No one of any note particularly. Again, it's going to be.
They may be after this year.
Well, again, though, it's going to be like Elle and Pretty in Pink, and it says, "Don't let the pink fool you" is the slogan on this thing, and it's interesting because
wasn't Elle? You mean Elle Legally Blonde or?
Yeah, it was Legally Blonde, but it says "Don't let the pink fool you."
Okay.
It's what it says in the ads for this one.
Okay.
I'm just jumping back and forth between the two. But the point is that Legally Blonde didn't run for that long. They were hoping to tap into the Wicked kind of.
I think and Legally Blonde is an extremely underrated musical.
Okay.
There was a TV version of it. I saw it. I saw it on Broadway, and I loved it.
I did too.
And fortunately, it was taped, and every time I see it, I just think, why didn't this musical run longer?
But this, I didn't see the Mean Girls movie because I'm not in the right age range for the Mean Girls movie. I'm probably not in the right age range for this, but I'm sure they're going to make it so that we'll find. But it's just I throw it in the mix for what's going on here. It opens in April. We'll see what happens. It plays at the August Wilson.
Well, again, it should be very interesting. I think that will be subject more to the critical reception than Frozen will, but.
Everybody loves Tina Fey.
Well, everybody loves Steve Martin, but Bright Star was not a hit.
You're right. From your mouth to God's ears. So what's your next one?
My next one, well, I've got another jukebox musical, and this is, the Donna Summer musical.
Ah, okay. It's called Summer.
Summer. Well, it says Summer, the Donna Summer musical.
Yes, right.
And it is basically, it's the life of Donna Summer. It's, and it will take place at her last concert. Donna Summer. She was a diva. She was a disco. I mostly remember her as a disco queen. And songs like "Bad Girls," "Hot Stuff," "Love, Love, Love, Love to Love You, Baby," and maybe it will be the next Jersey Boys. Maybe. Or maybe it will be the next, I don't know.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing the star of this, LaShawn.
Yes, she will be Donna.
We remember from the original Once on This Island is going to be playing Donna.
Right.
And I haven't seen her in a long time. I really want to see her. I hope that this is a big hit for her, for her sake. I just would like to see her, really. I don't really know much else about it. I think to me, they're kind of
20 of Summer's classic hits.
Right. But I wonder if
Des McAnuff will direct it.
Oh, and Des McAnuff used to be the artistic director of La Jolla, so things like Tommy and whatnot all started out
along with Coleman Domingo and Robert Carey are writing the book.
He's writing the book? I didn't know that. Oh, Coleman Domingo, of course, was in Scottsboro Boys. I love Coleman Domingo. Well, that gives me hope. I didn't look at the ones I wasn't talking about, so I didn't pay attention to those.
Well, we'll see. I can't say I was ever a big Donna Summers fan, but I'm willing to change.
Okay, well, I am and always have been a fairly big Edward Albee fan. And Edward Albee's Three Tall Women, directed by, now where he's going to find time to do this, because they open within 4 days of each other.
Wow.
He's doing Three Tall Women in March 29th, and he's doing the other play that you're going to talk about, and I'm talking about the women, you're going to talk about the boys. And he is? He is Joe Mantello.
Okay.
Who
was in the original Angels in America.
Yes, we already mentioned that. So his cast is unbelievable. Laurie Metcalf, who's very likely going to win an Oscar. She's definitely been nominated for one. Oscar for Lady Bird.
I'm sorry. I was thinking of this.
No, I don't know whether she's going to win anything for this. And Glenda Jackson, but she did win a Tony last year for Doll's House. A Doll's Story.
It was Doll's House 2.
Doll's House Part 2, yeah. And Glenda Jackson, who has not been on the stage in this country, I don't remember that she was...
I think the last play she did was Strange Interlude.
Well, Three Tall Women is Edward Albee's excoriation and forgiveness of his mother.
Right. Well, it's basically three women in different... The same woman...
We're not sure.
Yes, in different stage.
We're not sure.
In the first act, we are. In the first act, they play different roles. In the second act, they are the same woman at different stages of her life.
Maybe.
No, not maybe. Okay. There's no doubt about it.
Okay.
Didn't you see it?
I did.
Okay, well, so did I.
Well,
we will see who will be vindicated.
Okay.
When this comes.
In any case, we'll all be vindicated by seeing that cast. And Alison Pill plays the third part, the younger.
All right. Now we're running a little low on time here, so I'm going to go straight to the show that I am absolutely looking forward to. It is My Fair Lady.
Okay.
My Fair Lady, in my opinion, is the greatest musical ever written. And this has been the longest period between productions of My Fair Lady.
You don't think that has anything to do with women's lib, do you?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
There's been talk about how they're going to end it. Is she really going to come back in submission at the end, or?
Well, if you really want to get into it, you could go back to Pygmalion, where, as far as Shaw is concerned, she marries Freddie.
Yes.
He wrote a sequel. He basically wrote an epilogue. Now, Alan J. Lerner, in the printed version of My Fair Lady, basically said, I have omitted this epilogue because Shaw, and heaven forgive me, I don't think he is correct, and neither do I. I think the ending, which actually is the ending that Shaw put in the film version of Pygmalion, is the more likely. Now, we don't even know if they're going to get together or how the relationship is going to be. So,
but he's pretty mean to her all the way through. So you know. And
she gets, as in her term, a little bit of her own back at the end.
At the very end,
yes, but we can discuss this at another point. This is Bartlett Shear will direct this at Lincoln Center.
So we know it's going to be.
Well, it's going to be something, I think. I mean, he directed King and I and South Pacific here, but there's a difference. Number one, this is not Rodgers and Hammerstein; it's Lerner and Lowe, and he's doing it without Kelly O'Hara. So I guess you could call this a stretch. But it's going to have, interestingly, Diana Rigg will be playing Henry Higgins' mother here. From the Avengers, Lauren Ambrose.
Now
will be Eliza.
Is Lauren Ambrose. No one knows for sure whether Lauren Ambrose can sing.
Yeah, well, if you can't sing, Julie Andrews originated this role, and if you can't sing, you're in trouble because you can't get Marnie Nixon to dub for you.
He wanted to put her into Funny Girl, and it fell through because she wasn't a big enough name to get it going.
Well.
So it's going to be interesting.
Well, if she pulls this off, we may see her in Funny Girl. Henry Higgins will be Harry Haddon Payton from Downton Abbey. This is something I'm really looking forward to. Norman Leo Butts as Alfred P. Doolittle.
And we know he's going to be fabulous as Alfred P. Doolittle.
Right.
So I'll jump ahead since you're doing that. One of my favorite musicals.
This will be our final one.
Okay, would be Carrots. Well, then you don't get to talk about Boys in the Band.
Well, we will have to say Boys in the Band for another show because we're a little low on time, I'm afraid.
Directed by Jack O'Brien, who I did not think did very well with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I'm hoping he will do better with Carousel.
Right.
It's an interesting concept because Joshua Henry, who is black, will be playing Billy Bigelow, and that's a first.
Yes.
And I don't know that it makes any difference. We'll have to see. It may. No pun intended. It may color the way the rest of the play goes.
It could be. You know, everyone accepted Audrey McDonald.
Right.
And Mr. Snow was certainly not someone who would have married a black woman back then.
Necessarily.
He was a snob.
Necessarily.
Right. But I will say her performance, which won her first Tony and put her on the map.
The best thing in it.
She was. So we'll see.
Michael Hayden was Michael Hayden the Billy Bigelow? I think. Well, anyway. I understand what you're saying. There's so much coming up. We probably spent too much time on some of it. We were going to talk about off-Broadway on another show. Maybe we'll come back and finish up Broadway because we still have a couple of shows
maybe we'll get to
left.
Boys in the Band. It's going to have a wonderful cast.
Joe Mantello directing again. And the two shows open within 4 days of each other. And I was going to make the joke about boys and women, but you know.
But our show has to close now.
So we're going to have to.
When you go to the theater, look for Leslie and me.
Us two
on the aisle.